Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That's my co-host Tyson Gentry. Huge podcast today, Tyson. Major podcast for your boys here too, as we are previewing the conference championship round here in the National Football League. 2 games, winners go to the Super Bowl. It doesn't get much bigger than this.
Oh, it's massive, man. And the best part is this took 20 weeks to get to, and then the gap between this and the Super Bowl feels longer than the entire season up to this point.
I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm too confident. We were talking about that beforehand.
I mean, 2017 screwed us as Eagles fans because before it was before they beat the Vikings in that game, you just expected them to lose. And now going into this with a home playoff game as a Philadelphia Eagle fan, you're just inherently, I don't know what happened, but it's just oh yeah, the Niners are super good. We're going to fuck them up. 6 years ago, I'd have been oh my God, we're going against the 49ers. We don't have a shot.
Here we are now, though, baby. 2023, anything's possible for this Eagles franchise. And we are going to do the same standard thing we've done, break down what we expect to see in the film, what we expect to see in the game, where do we think matchups can be exploited, and then give out our gambling picks as well. So that's the format we're going with. Going to share this real quick because it encompasses everything before we get started. We have 2 number 1 seeds in the conference championship games, one AFC, obviously one NFC. Since in the last 43 games, the number 1 seeds have gone 29-14 straight up. Since 93, the over in these games have gone 35-24-1 and 8-4 in the last 12 games. So just kind of interesting there. It's been high scoring recently. It's been the 1 seeds who have dominated on as you expect, being the best team. So that's something to keep in mind going forward here. But Tyson, of course, man, we're starting with 49ers Eagles. This is the first game, 3 p.m. Eastern time. 49ers got to travel across the coast, come into Philadelphia. Man, oh man, let's start breaking this baby down. What do you expect to see out of this game?
Oh, it's going to be just a pure clash of style. I think it's the most physical football game we're going to see since 1935. This is going to be a smash mouth, punch you in the face game, and it's not going to look like it all the time. But when you're looking in the trenches, the Eagles' offensive line versus the Niners' defensive line is going to be electric. And I was saying that obviously that's where the game gets decided. And then as I started to think about it a little more, one thing that I'm really interested in is kind of the clash between these two, where the 49ers like to work the middle of the field. If they can get the ball to Kittle, especially since Purdy's been in 7 of Kittle's 11 touchdowns this year have been with Brock Purdy, they want to attack you in the middle. And Philadelphia obviously has the best corner pair left in the playoffs and maybe the best one in the regular season on the outside. Coverage linebackers, TJ Edwards and Kaiser White leave a little bit to be desired. So if you're the 49ers, you want to eat in there. Philadelphia will go to the middle of the field when the opportunity presents itself, when they need 6 and they're just trying to find yards, basically. You can get Goddard or A.J. Brown or whatever, but they really like to work the sidelines. They like to work outside of the hashes, and that's where the Niners are weak. Everybody knows about the linebackers. It's 20 years straight, basically, of us talking about the Niners inside linebacker duo, whether it was Bowman and Willis or now we got Warner and Greenlaw. It's like the Packers with quarterbacks, man. They just keep replenishing. But on the outside, they're vulnerable, and that's where the Eagles are going to want to work. And on the flip side, the Niners are going to want to work in the middle of the field. That's going to be really, really fun to watch. And I think that the Niners have to try to go quick. Trent Williams is one of the best run blocking tackle or pass blocking tackles in the NFL. Everyone else on the line leaves a ton to be desired in that department. They're road graders in the run game. They run people over. They get physical. We're in your face. But as soon as they have to throw a pass set down against a 75 sack defense with a pressure rate that's the difference between the Eagles and the number 2 team as far as sacks this season is 2-22 or something like that. They're head and shoulders better than everybody. The Niners have to go quick. They have to boot Purdy out, make him because he's really good actually at making decisions outside of the pocket. He doesn't look like a rookie out there. If he makes the mistakes he made against Dallas, the mistakes he made against Seattle the first time, the mistakes he's made a handful of times throughout the year that just haven't been capitalized on. And if the Eagles capitalize on those, it'll be quick work. The problem is I don't know how many of those opportunities are going to present themselves. And if you get 3 and the Eagles drop 2 interceptions, it's a close game and the Niners might be more talented.
So you mentioned the middle of the field. It's obvious why the 49ers with Brock Purdy have targeted the middle of the field. That's the easiest place for young quarterbacks to throw. It's in the middle. You're looking right at it, and you can scheme things in the middle to separate coverage. Outside of the hashes, that's the hardest for these young quarterbacks to throw. Hardest for any quarterback to throw is outside of the numbers, deep
Unless you're Russell
outbreaking
Wilson.
routes. Unless you're Russell Wilson. He's kind of like the outlier in that. So that's going to be the biggest thing, right? And the Eagles do not cover linebackers do not cover tight ends very well. So George Kittle, he could be primed for a big day. I think that's going to be the number one thing the Eagles have to stop. That should be the number one mismatch that the 49ers want to take advantage of. George Kittle on Kaiser White or TJ Edwards or any of the other linebackers the Eagles bring in. Secondly, what do the 49ers want to do? They want to run the ball. And now we've heard the weakness of the Eagles is their run defense. I think that's a misnomer, and I think that's misstated. Now, there's been times they've been gashed. I do not think this is a bad run defensive team. I think they're worse at run defense than pass defense, clearly.
Right.
But
you have to pick something. When it comes to a weakness, you have to pick something.
You have to pick something.
That's
going to be the one. But I do think they can stop. Christian McCaffrey's banged up. He has a calf injury, and Elijah Mitchell, the backup, maybe even more banged up. Like, these aren't the guys like ready to go right now or primed and healthy and ready. Deebo Samuel may get a lot more work, but I still think Shanahan, his DNA is he wants to pound the ball. He's going to want to make it easy on Purdy. If you get into these predictable situations where the Eagles are selling out to stop the run early and putting Brock Purdy into obvious passing situations, that's a win for this Eagles defense, no matter how vulnerable the middle of the field is. The other thing for the Eagles, Avonte Maddox, their best slot corner, it looks like he may go. Then you can push C.J. Gardner-Johnson back to safety. I think that'd be huge because those tip balls that people have not been intercepting lately from Purdy or the overthrows, that's picked off. Plus, C.J. Gardner-Johnson can help on those linebackers, can help with Kittle, bracket that a little bit more, and then you're going to have to force it outside to Ayuk or Samuel when he's out there or Juwan Jennings. So that's my breakdown of it from a defensive standpoint for how the 49ers should attack the Eagles, and it's similarly how you looked at it as well.
And I will say Ufanga is basically the second coming, like, of these hard-hitting safeties. Like, I don't want to put him in the Troy Polamalu, Brian Dawkins territory, but, like, this dude, he's Derwin James. Like, he's going to come down in the box and hit you. But the Niners have allowed 8 50-plus yard passing plays this season. That's the most in the league by a lot. Philadelphia is going to test that. That's what they do. If you remember when they played a year ago in an offense that was significantly worse than this one, Philadelphia hit a 91-yard go route to Quez Watkins, I think in the second quarter. Philly's going to want to take those shots. Jalen Hurts loves to throw the ball deep. For my money, he's the most underrated deep ball thrower in the NFL. I mean, it's just about perfect every time. A.J. Brown's going to want the ball. Miles Sanders is going to want the ball. It's you have to decide where you're going to go. And I hate to be cliche. If Philly jumps on him, if it's 14-zip, you might as well buy your tickets to Arizona because I don't think Brock Purdy's beating this defense. If it's close and the Niners are able to do what they do really well and they don't have to play from behind and they can stay ahead of the sticks, they have a really, really, really good shot at winning this game. I think the Eagles are just too physical, which sounds weird when you talk about the San Francisco 49ers
right.
team. I think that's the most underrated part of the Philadelphia Eagles this season. Is their physicality. They come out and they hit people, and it disappeared for 4 weeks at the end of the season. I think that was the thing most concerning. Everyone else talking about Hurts' shoulder, Lane Johnson's groin, Josh Sweat's neck, all this stuff. The physicality disappeared for a couple weeks. They hit the shit out of the New York Giants on Saturday. They hit the shit out of them. And if that defense shows up, the Lynx going to get rocking. And Brock Purdy wasn't good on the road or at neutral sites in college, and the Raiders scored 31 on them last time they were on the road, Brad. The Seahawks nearly took them down a couple months ago, the time before that when they were and they haven't left the West Coast. This is their first time leaving basically their territory, their time zone. And they're going to what will be the most aggressive and loud place Brock Purdy's ever played a football game. Rookie quarterbacks are 0-4 in the NFC and AFC championship games, and they lose by an average of 10 points. Brock Purdy could be the guy because this Niners roster is so special, but it's unprecedented. What he's done and everything he's done has been unprecedented, right? There's a reason that we're all somewhat obsessed with this guy. I just think that there's a real shot that it comes to a crashing halt in Philadelphia.
And I think when you look at that too, Ben Roethlisberger was on that list, Mark Sanchez, and everybody can kind of make fun of that. Like for a while there, that Jets team was good with Sanchez as QB. And we're going to say Brock Purdy's going to break the mold. I think like to your point, it's not like those other rosters are bad, though, the Jets and Steelers. At the end of the day, this comes down to quarterback play, and it's never been more apparent than it is now how important the quarterback is. So I think we look at it like, well, this roster's great. So were all those other teams. Like the Steelers were stacked, but it came down to the quarterback, and that was back in the early 2000s. We're talking about an air raid offense in 2023, an air raid era. You said something here. I want to give some stats. So Jalen Hurts, we know the Eagles are great in the first half. In his last 13 starts, they're 10-1-2 in the first half straight up. So they win in the first half, the Eagles do. Now, here's the nugget that I think is a great angle. The 49ers, when trailing at halftime under Kyle Shanahan, are 11-30 straight up. They've also won their last 4 games when trailing at half. So previously, they were 7-30 when losing at halftime. So that's something to keep in mind here as you kind of watch this game and look throughout. The last thing here, or kind of breakdown on the Eagles front, I think they should attack the Niners before we give out some picks. You can't be afraid to attack this defense through the air. This offensive line that the Eagles have is exceptional. I think they're going to be able to stifle that pass rush. They're not going to be able to do it all game. Hurts is going to be under pressure at times. We saw what happened against the Dallas defense a couple of times when he's played. I think that's comparable to what the Eagles are going to face. One elite edge rusher on one side and Bosa. And the other side, you can have some formidable guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, and then whoever else the Niners want to shuffle in there. Like this is a good offense, or this is a good defensive line. The problem is they're going against the best offensive line, and that's where I think this changes because Dak Prescott was under pressure last week. The Cowboys have an overrated offensive line. They've been shuffling people in and out. This is the best O-line in the league, and they can do pass blocking as well as they do run blocking. Like they're just multifaceted guys. So we don't have to just rely on Jalen Hurts that, hey, you're going to have to go throw it 60 times. Like that's not how they're built. He can do that. A.J. Brown's in that matchup nightmare. Devontae Smith is always open. And I think Dallas Goedert, he's the most underrated tight end in the league. Like previously on podcasts early in like week 5, I was saying I think Goedert might be better than Kittle just because they don't even use Kittle in San Francisco. Now we see how good Kittle is once again. But that point still stands. Like this offense has guys that I think overmatch what the Niners can do on that elite defense. That the great part of that line, the 49ers defense is that defensive line. Well, that's going against the best unit in the NFL. Well, the Eagles have really good wide receivers. Perfect, because their secondary in the 49ers is not very good. Like this just looks like a mismatch that the Eagles can exploit on paper. And I understand that people are like, well, is Jalen Hurts' shoulder healthy? I don't know. He looked kind of tender last week. I don't know what you were watching. Like I've heard that all around. Like, is that just what people think they saw? Like, well, he looked like he was avoided hits. Like,
it's because they're watching.
You want your quarterback to do?
They're looking at box scores. So he finishes the game with 158 yards, and people think that's bad. He was 8 for 8 with the 78 yards and 2 touchdowns to start the game. The game was over.
That's crazy.
Not to cut you off, but one thing that's super interesting here is like the Niners rush defense is number 1 in the league, allowing like 74 yards a game. Philly averages when Jalen Hurts plays 157 yards on the ground and 5 yards a clip per carry. Now you might look at that and say an unstoppable object, a movable force. Like we'll see how it plays out. When the Eagles have played the Saints and they were the number 1 rushing defense in the NFL, they put up 240 on them. Every single team outside of the Dallas Cowboys that's played the Philadelphia Eagles isn't sitting at the top of the league when it comes to yards defended when you're rushing the football. And Dallas got away with one because they had to play Gardner Minshew once, and it turned into a shootout. Jeff Stoutland's the best run game coordinator in the NFL, on top of being the best offensive line coach. I think that Philly's going to find a way to run the ball enough to do what they want, and I think people are going to be shocked at the end of this. But God damn it, Brad, I've seen this movie before when a backup quarterback comes in with the best defense to the link. And what happened last time? It was 22 past 6.
I don't even want to remember that. But last thing here before we get into our picks, and I'll give out some numbers. Sometimes those stats can be misleading. The 49ers were leading a lot of games. You know what happens when you're losing? You don't run the ball. You throw it a lot. And so that pads those stats a bit. So let's we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I mean, they have great players on that linebacking core and defensive line. So I'm not saying they're bums or sieves, but come on, like let's look at this in context at the same time too, for all you people out there who kind of analyzing this game. All right. Tyson already mentioned the rookies in championship games, 0-4 straight up. Matchups between the number 1 and number 2 seeds historically have gone 13-4 and 13-4-1 to the over since 2002. That's 76.5%. Kind of interesting number there. Shanahan 40-6 against the spread versus teams allowing under 24 points per game. Eagles apply here, allowing 20 points per game. Shanahan 6-3 straight up and against the spread this season when going from Pacific time to Eastern time. Not this season, I'm sorry, in his career. So he's good when going from the West Coast to East Coast. But previous teams in this championship game that have gone from Pacific time to Eastern time are 1-2 straight up. Teams that have gone on a 10-plus game win streak into the playoffs have gone 4-13 against the spread the last 20 years. 2 of those wins were the Niners this season. So what the Niners are doing is an outlier. Like historically, that doesn't happen very often. Jalen Hurts this season against the playoff teams was 6-0. Hurts at home 12-5-1 against the spread, and he's been 9-3 against the spread as a dog or favorite anywhere that's less than 7. Like it doesn't matter. It's under 7. He's a dog or a favorite. 9-3 against the spread. That's pretty spectacular. Jalen Hurts 20-4 straight up when favored. 12-11-1 against the spread. As you can see, 2.5 field goal game. You're mainly looking at pick'ems there. I already mentioned Hurts first half 10-1-2 straight up last 13. And teams in the championship game who are playing their 4th home game in a row are 6-1 straight up. So those are your little nuggets for you all out there to help you place a bet. We'll give out our picks now. Tyson, who are you taking in this game?
Well, you missed the most important stat of all, and that's Jalen Hurts is 15-1 this year as a starter.
Yes, sir.
It's fucking insane. And I know Brock Purdy's undefeated, and it's awesome, but it's 7. There's 8. It's half. Like if he had to play a full season, that you're telling me they're walking out of this thing 15-2 because they rest at the end of the year? I don't think so. Brad, when rosters are even, where do we look? We look at quarterback and we look at head coach. I think Philadelphia has the advantage in both, and I'm a huge Kyle Shanahan guy. But when it comes to not cutting time, Kyle Shanahan is going to punt from your 40. He's going to punt on 4th and 2 like he did a week ago in a situation where every other coach in the league probably goes for that. Mick Sirianni has no qualms. I think Philadelphia is going to lay their nuts on the table. And you know what, Brad? I think they throw him out the stadium. Eagles minus 2.5, and I'm going over 46.5 because I think the Birds put up 30.
Eagles minus 2.5 and over 46.5. Interesting there. So you got going with those trends too. Oh, I did want to mention this.
When's the last time the Niners played a good team? It was the Kansas City Chiefs. That was 41-24. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and I did want to mention this too, actually, because this goes to your point as well. The home spread winner. So the teams at home, if they beat the spread, that means the over has gone 14-4 the last 18 games that's happened in this championship round. If the road spread team wins, that means they cover. The under's 8-4 in the last 12. Interesting nuggets there. Just something to think about. Also, forgot to mention too, Tyson, we're kind of sitting pretty from a future standpoint here. If you watch our preseason show.
I got every base but the 49ers covered.
Well, you have Niners, I think. You took them too.
I just have too many tickets.
I know for sure I took Niners plus 750 and Eagles plus 1,000. I have any.
I have Eagles plus 3,000 from the beginning of the season. I have Bengals after. Yes, and then I have Bengals after the skid at the beginning of the year. I have Chiefs from preseason, and I might have a Niners ticket kicking around there somewhere. It's probably buried with my Bills. I've already counted this as a loss.
That's fair. Well, I mean, either way, so we're looking good in terms of we have some equity in this game either way, which is good. Obviously, we want the Eagles. We're both holding tickets on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. Play of the week, Eagles money line minus 148. I'm just not going to mess around with the spread here. If something funky happens, I'm not messing with it. I'm just going to lay it minus 150. I already have futures, so if San Francisco does win, who cares? I have that covered anyway. Eagles minus 148. The home team here is going to win. And I understand, like, people are like, well, it's 2.5 and it stayed there at 2.5. You got to understand this. If it gets to 3, it's going to get hammered right back down to 2.5 because the Sharps are, if they're on the Eagles early, because this opened the pick'em. Like, this opened a pick'em game and it got bet up to 2.5 and then it hasn't moved. Like, it wasn't, well, they opened 2.5, hasn't moved. It's like, no, it got bet to 2.5. That's how it works. And then they're like, well, you already hammered the Eagles. I'm not going to give any buyback on the 49ers. That's not what the books are in their business for. So, soliloquy there. Eagles money line play of the week. I got back on track last week, my play of the week. Let's cash it again this one, and let's have our Eagles in the Super Bowl, Tyson.
Let's do it.
Okay, next game, Bengals at Chiefs. Do want to say something quick here just before the gambling stuff. I want to give a little PSA, Tyson. I'm sure you saw this all week. I saw so much dumb gambling talk from a bunch of different, from the internet, from some shows that I listened to too. They're like, well, I think this move to Bengals, because the Bengals Chiefs opened a 3-point favorite. This flip to Bengals all the way up to 2.5. Now it's back down to Chiefs -1. So I want to make this very clear. The Bengals did not become a 2.5-point favorite without the Patrick Mahomes injury news. It wasn't the books adjusting that either. When this opened 3, there was buyback immediately down to Bengals. I think if Mahomes was not hurt, this would have been Chiefs -2.5. The books made a mistake opening us up Chiefs -3, knowing the Mahomes ankle injury. Bettors were like, hey, if this guy can't go, I'm going to be on Bengals plus money, be on Bengals plus the points, yada, yada. They kept taking these bets. The books eventually flipped it because they're getting so much action on the Bengals underdog. They had to go Bengals favorite. It was nothing to do with the books. It was nothing to do with Bengals. We all think the Bengals are better than that. It was all to do with the Mahomes ankle injury. And now that we see Mahomes practicing, what do you know? There's been buyback from the bettors, and it's gone all the way back to Chiefs -1. Where probably should have been the Chiefs should have been favored from the jump, like they were, being at home in Arrowhead with Patrick Mahomes. So just wanted to get that off my chest. I saw so many stupid comments. Well, you couldn't have opened just Chiefs originally underdog because you gotten hammered. What? That makes no sense. Like, the books don't care about that. But anyway, let's get into football analysis here. What are you expecting to see in this one?
So what's the overwhelming sentiment that you see when you're on the internet regarding this game and regarding these teams?
Mahomes ankle injury. It's all anybody's talking about.
And it's the Bengals beat the Chiefs, and the Bengals beat the Chiefs, and the Bengals beat the Chiefs. And the Bengals are always going to beat the Chiefs, and they just can't figure them out. And I am not seeing anybody talking about the last time Pat Mahomes had an ankle injury in the playoffs in an AFC Championship game. What happened? He threw for like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, he went bombs over Baghdad on everybody. It was going crazy. The disrespect is out of control. And I say this as definitely the bigger Bengals guy out of the two of us. I've been pounding the table for him for 2 years now, essentially. If Pat Mahomes loses, he'll have 3 conference championship losses at home, which will put him by himself at the record. And that's not one you want to hold, but that's pretty wild that he's already been here now 4 times at 26, 27 years old. You can get into the X's and O's and all that stuff that you want. Like, Burrow loves to throw slants. That's what the Bengals do. They throw slants 47% of the time or something fucking ridiculous like that. They're going to go quick. That's what they do. They're going to try to run the football and establish it, and then when that doesn't work, they'll move off to passing the ball, and that's the way Zach Taylor plays, and that's what works in the playoffs. The Chiefs are trying to find a run game. All this stuff is awesome. It comes down to 15. It comes down to how he's moving. And personally, I know it's tiny, but we saw him walk off with no ankle boot and a perfect gait out of the interview the other day, and that's all I need to believe that the Chiefs are going to win this football game. They've been the best team in the league all year.
That's interesting. And the interesting angle here too. Mahomes has kind of been crowned by everybody early, like, oh, clearly the best. Like, is he the most talented ever? Now, all of a sudden, there's been a conversation. Is Burrow better than Mahomes? Is Burrow the best QB actually?
We're going to get reminded.
Because MJ needed whatever motivation he could come up with every night. Brady needed that. I was picked in the 6th round, 7th round, whatever the case may be. You know, all these guys need that little something. Is this finally the one thing for Mahomes that it's like, oh, now you're giving me some bulletin board material? I think it could be. To your point, we could be reminded how freaking good this guy is. It's just crazy to me that he's got to go up against this team that has stifled him like no other. And I'm not saying he's had bad stats. And if you look at the stats, if you watch the box score and you're like, what are you talking about? He's been good against them. It's like, if you watch the games, he's just missing routine throws that he normally makes. He's just not figuring out that defense in that split second that he used to. He's not making those big third down conversions.
Well, Big Lou's confusing too on the flip side because they'll run that too high, which everyone knows that like when Tyreek was there, that's how you beat the Chiefs. They can't go over the top, and it worked. Like the Texans did it, then the rest of the league was like, oh shit. But in order to get into those looks, they'll show one, they'll show three, and they'll rotate after the snap, and they're so good at it. It's second to none the way this defense moves after the snap of the ball. And I think that is the confusing thing. It's just, for me, it's so hard to believe that he's going to get a look at it for the fourth time in a year, and he's not going to have the answers to the test.
Yeah, and again, this is all going to come down to Mahomes' ankle. So in the second half, when he came back out and played, he did not throw outside of the pocket in the second half. That was only the second time all season that he's done that. We know what Mahomes is. He's an improviser. He can get out of the pocket, extend plays with the best of them. Some of the best that's ever lived. He's that good. Is he going to be able to do that in this one? Because if not, that's going to make this game super difficult for the Chiefs to win this one. Because we know what the Bengals can do. They attack this defense. They score at will on the Chiefs defense. That's with the shitty O-line. That's with the good O-line as we saw this year. And it's going to be with the shitty O-line that we'll have this week. Anarumo knows how to game plan against Andy Reid and Mahomes for some weird reason. And I'm not saying he shuts them down like, oh, they're scoring 17 points. Like, Chiefs will score. Chiefs going to put up yards. Chiefs are going to have a good-looking box score. But they know how to make that one play that other defenses just don't seem to be able to do.
And all three of these games they've played against each other have been field goal games, right? So it's not like the Bengals are walking into Arrowhead and completely thrashing the Chiefs. It's actually the opposite. It's the Chiefs seem to be jumping out to huge leads, and then Joe Burrow just goes ice cold. And maybe that's the flip side of this. Maybe as Tom Brady needed his Peyton, maybe we're just looking at it from the wrong angle, and maybe Mahomes is going to play himself into a Peyton Manning type role, which good career, but that's not who you want to be in the comparison. And maybe Joe Burrow is the ultimate winner, and they're going to go in, like I think he is, and they're going to go in there and they're going to find a way to win the game. If we're going to go defenses, the Bengals hit harder, they're faster, better prepared, better coached, all that stuff, more talent. But the Chiefs just play like
they like just never lose.
No, it's just like the defense is never the reason that they win a football game, but seldom over the last year and a half, contrary to kind of what we've been peddling, is it the reason that they lose these football games. Poor game planning, slow starts, things like that are kind of what put the Chiefs not being able to run the ball. That's what puts them into these holes. If the defense can show up just enough, like I said, I mean, you're giving Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, it's a lot of stuff to work off, man. I mean, how much different, how much more exotic can you truly be? Or how much more exotic do you need to be if he's not getting outside the pocket? I'm sure whoever is supplying the Toradol or the cortisone shots or whatever is having a banner week in Kansas City because they're making a bunch of money.
That's for sure. And we saw him practicing today. I'm not sure if you out there have seen the video. He looks fine, but I think it's strange. Like, why would you keep it why would you just immediately say he's fine? Like, why would you not keep it like closer to the vest? Like, now the Bengals know he's playing. But he's been a little sneaky in the past. Like, normally he's sneaky.
But I mean, if he were to say it's 50-50 or we're whatever, the Bengals are still going to be preparing for Patrick Mahomes all week. I don't think it even matters. Like, if he was like Chad Henne starting 100%, I think Jack Taylor looks at it and goes, okay, well, Mahomes comes in on the second snap.
There's no way Mahomes is going to be 100%. I just refuse to believe that. Like, you if you're diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, you're not 100% for like 4 weeks. So I want everybody to get that. Now, is he going to be 80%? Is he going to be 85%? 90%? He's not going to be 100% ready to go for this game. Like, you just physically can't do that. And it's just not possible. It's just how much below 100% is he going to be, which to our point when we did our reaction show, Mahomes at 90%, 80%, he's better than fucking everybody but 5 QBs in this league. Like, the dude's that good. I'll be interested to see. And here's the other thing too. If the pass rush gets home, because if he's not going to be as mobile, if he's going to have to put actual legit stress on that thing, trying to get outside of pressure, if he takes a couple hits on that, the Toradol ain't doing shit for that. Like, you could have a shot up all you want, but you can't put more of it in. Like, you're going to feel it. And then at that point, if you re-aggravate, which is very easy to do with high ankle sprains, we could be looking at a completely different game here. And
I'm just going to get right. You got anything else I was going to go into pick?
No, let me get this out real quick. We know Burrow 3-0 straight up against the spread against Mahomes. Burrow in his career is 29, 18-1 straight up, 32-16 against the spread, and also 20-5 against the spread his last 25, which is just crazy. Burrow 23-9 against the spread versus anybody outside of his division. In his last 17 with this outside of his division, he's 15-2 straight up, 16-1 against the spread. Like, the dude's just a killer. Against winners, 17-6 against the spread, 16-7 straight up against 500 teams. Burrow better on the road, and neutrals 19-7 against the spread. Mahomes from the Chiefs angle, 8-2 straight up, 6-4 against the spread at home in the playoffs. Dude's a winner at home in the playoffs as a dog or a favorite of 3 or less, which obviously is the case here. He's 4-3 straight up and against the spread. So closer margins, you're getting closer to a coin flip. Mahomes at home in his career has not been as good against the spread, 22, 25-1. Mahomes is a favorite of 3 or less, is 17, 6-1 against the spread. So they're a little bit better for the coin flip there. Andy Reid, 20-16 straight up, 19-17 against the spread in the playoffs. Andy Reid at home at Arrowhead, 55, 38-1 to the under, which also includes a 7-2 mark this season, which is crazy. Chiefs 2-11 against the spread versus the AFC this season. Kind of a mind-blowing stat there. And the last one, another thing to the under, night games this season. This will be at night. This is at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Night games are 39-21 to the under, and also 18-3 to the under the last 21. So if you're looking to be an under better here, be sweaty. This is the game for you, especially because that's going to be super contrarian, because these teams just put up points when they're playing each other. Tyson, what are you playing in this one?
Well, this is where it gets weird, because I think the Bengals they're better defense. The offense is good enough to hang with anybody, and they win. And they're going in here with a whole bunch of swagger and a whole bunch of confidence. But I just can't quite shake the feeling that this is the L word. This is the legacy game. This is Pat Mahomes doing what Pat Mahomes does. And so for all of that, like I think the Bengals, win this game 7 out of 10 times. I think the Chiefs win. This is one of their 3. I like Chiefs -1 here, mainly because I want to protect my Eagles over Chiefs Super Bowl ticket that I have. This is where these picks are coming from. I've been pretty lucky lately, so I'm hoping that just speaking it into existence works. But truly, like, this is a superstar game. Everybody that you want to bet, first touchdown scorer, anytime touchdown scorer, all this stuff, I'm not looking down the board, because we have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, and Hayden Hurst, and you guys have Travis Kelce, Kadarius Toney. Hardman should play, Pacheco, and McKinnon. Those are going to be the guys doing the work. That's the game right there. I think that the Chiefs are fucking fed up with the Burrow head talk, and if it was anybody else besides Andy Reid, I would feel a lot more convicted in them being able to send a message and win this game. Andy doesn't win the big one. Like, he won the Super Bowl, and we kind of just forgot about the 4 straight NFC title trips with the Eagles that resulted in 0 Super Bowls. We forgot basically about what's been happening. The dude forgets how to manage the clock. He gets a little conservative. It gets weird. If he stays free and loose, I think the Chiefs are the one to beat left.
I like Bengals team total over 23.5 here. I know I gave those numbers out in the under. They just know how to score on this defense. And I don't think, even with Chris Jones in the middle against that kind of softer interior line, if that's going to matter. And the one thing, and the Chiefs have actually had like kind of an underrated defense, is looking at like advanced metrics and game-to-game expected points and expected points allowed, things like that. They were torched by the Bengals in those advanced metrics. Like, the Bengals just know how to attack them. They have the weapons to attack. I think this could be a big T. Higgins game, quite honestly. Like, he's been quiet this postseason. I think this could be a big T. Higgins game. I like Bengals team total over 23.5. We're also going to get into our weekly specials, but one more bonus pick for me. You know, I got to throw out a teaser in this one. I'm going to predict that Chiefs close as a 1.5 point favorite by kick. So by that number, I'm going to do my 6 point teaser here. Bengals plus 7.5, Niners plus 8.5, roughly around minus 130.
I hate it.
Or Niners plus 8.5. I said that. Here we
go. You're obsessed with the teasers, man.
They're good, dude. The fucking Wong teasers, man. I'm telling you, we're gonna be next season. I already got a whole thing. We'll get into it later, but I'm already excited for our off-season strategies. But some weekly specials here at FanDuel. There's some interesting stuff. I mean, I honestly think like a ton of this is they're going to try to take your money because it's like, whoa, this is crazy. This can happen. So tread very, very lightly on these. I don't advertise and don't advise playing into a lot of these. But Tyson, I like to have a little fun and, throw a little a coffee money or a dollar on it, whatever the case may be. I'll start with the one here, my most conservative one. Both opening kickoffs to be a touchback plus 230. I like it.
That's crazy.
Plus 230s, better than I think 50-50 combined there. I think, plus 200 would be about that if my math's correct. So plus 230. I'll roll the dice on that one. What's one that you like?
Well, I love that too, because that's about as 50-50 as it gets. I mean, break it down simply, it happens or it doesn't. Like we're gonna know pretty quick. But I mean, could you imagine like if you laid a bunch of money on that and you then have to wait 4 quarters of the Eagles-Niners game just to get to the moment? I mean, maybe that's a sprinkle. I don't know if you could stomach doing 100 or whatever on that.
Oh, that'd be 100 would be insane.
My favorite one here is Travis Kelce, 75 plus receiving yards, and George Kittle, 50 plus. Kelce last week, 14 catches, 98 yards, couple tuds. Doesn't matter. Try to stop him. Do whatever it is that you do. He's going to find a way to get open. It's a big game. Travis Kelce shows up. 75 is low. I would expected this one to be a little bit higher. And then Kittle at 50 plus, we laid it out, man. He's going to eat against the Eagles. He's going to be open a lot. He's going to get fed the ball a lot. He's going to be the safety blanket. And 50, like that's a first half number for George Kittle this week.
And this is my long shot. So any 3 of these 4 players to score 2+ touchdowns each. Jamar Chase, McCaffrey, Kelce, or Mixon. So I just need any of those 3 to score 2+ each. That's plus 5,500. Now that's an absolute sprinkle. Like I don't think that can happen. But listen, you got Chase, Kelce, and Mixon all in the same game. That could be a very high-scoring game just based on their history between those 2 teams. That could be something where it's a shootout. Maybe it's a Kelce-Chase combo. Maybe it's a Kelce-Mixon combo. Maybe it's a Mixon-Chase combo. Or hell, if Christian McCaffrey somehow finds his way into the end zone against the Eagles, maybe you're sweating that one out as well. But that's the best sprinkle I saw for me.
And my last, like a little long shot here, each team in both championship games to convert a 4th down conversion. The Eagles are a lock. I think that the Bengals are going to do it too. The Chiefs like to do it. The issue is going to be the 49ers. But if it's going to be a shootout kind of game, you got to imagine they're going for one. At least let it be the second quarter. Like the Eagles are going to go for it on 40% of the 4th downs. I'm not worried about that one. The Niners here are going to kind of be the issue at plus 1,100. I really, really like that.
QB sneak? Like, you going to be rooting for that? You're like, come on, get out of the way in like the first quarter.
That's fine. Yeah, just do it quick. As long as it's not to break my back.
That's plus 1,100. I like that too. I'm jumping on that.
I have a couple others in here that I'd love to throw out. Do you have any left?
Throw them out. I'm done. I'm jumping on that with you. And other than that, I just saw those 2 that I like.
So these aren't like specials. These are, well, a couple of them are, but I like Joe Mixon to get in the end zone at plus 100. I like Jalen Hurts to get in the end zone at plus 125. I think the Eagles-Niners, contrary to popular belief, is going to be the higher scoring game of these 2. I think 27-24 is where I predict somewhere around for the Bengals Chiefs. So that would make that the lowest scoring game, right? And the odds aren't great, but we're at minus 105 for both. And then lowest scoring team, like if you like it's just, to me, it's got to be Bengals or Chiefs. Everyone loves the 49ers right now. They're going to find a way to get in the end zone. Like they're going to exploit things that Philadelphia doesn't do well, and they're more well equipped to do that than anybody else. I think that the narrative that we're going to be treated to a slugfest early and a show late, I think you can have a slugfest and a show at the same time.
Facts. That's playoff football, man. Like that's what we sign up for. That's what you put the helmet on for Christ's sake, man. Like you don't want to watch Big 12 football all the time. Jesus, man. Like let's put the pads on. Let's hit.
No, we want new age SEC though. We wanted to hit, but it'd be nice if it was 40-35.
Good point. That's a good point. Okay, that's our conference championship preview, football and picks. Well, I thought it was awesome. Tyson gave out some of his anytime touchdown scores on the show. I'm going to give out some of mine in our Chalkboard app. Tyson, tell them where to find us there.
It is in the App Store or Google Play. It's called Chalkboard. Our group name in it is The Round Table. It's just Brad and I throwing picks at the wall. Brad just sprayed the board with NHL picks shortly before we hopped on. Soccer picks, tennis picks, golf picks. We're sweating out some Shriners Open golf tickets at the moment. But anything you could think of, we're in there throwing bets down on. And we got a small little community built up. And it's just fun. And hop in there, fade us, tail us, doesn't matter. I think I'm 9-1 or whatever through the wild card or through this point in the playoffs. So
yeah,
do it at your own risk.
Great playoffs.
Heater, buddy. It might all come to a crashing halt when the Niners embarrass the Eagles and the Bengals shit stomp the Chiefs. But for the moment, we're doing all right. So it's the Chalkboard app, and the group name is The Round Table.
Like, subscribe, and share the show in the meantime. We really appreciate the support that you guys give us. Make sure to comment. Like, we haven't had a comment in a while. If you want to be featured on this show, shoot us over a comment, whether it's on YouTube, asking us a question, whether it's in Spotify, Apple, whatever the case may be. Send us over a question. We'll answer it on the show. Follow us on our Instagram @_the roundtable pod _ our TikTok handle, which is starting to blow up a bit, is actually at the same @_ the roundtable pod _ and Twitter is @TRT _pod. We'll be back. We haven't decided if it's going to be Sunday or Monday reaction. Probably Sunday night, coming out Monday. We'll figure it out though. We'll tweet out when we're going live.
It depends on our mental state.
True. Good point. Good point. But we'll be back to give you our reaction next week. Until then, peace.